If you're looking for your next big binge, you might want to check out the Netflix original docuseries, Making a Murderer.
It quickly became a phenomenon and has more than 200,000 people petitioning the White House. We'll talk to the filmmakers in a moment, but first, more on the story.
Truth is stranger than fiction. But the Netflix documentary series Making a Murderer asks, what is the truth?
I think a good life till all the trouble started.
It's the story of Stephen Avery, a man who served 18 years in prison for rape until he was exonerated by DNA evidence. But just 4 years after his release, he was convicted of murdering Teresa Halbach in 2005.
I didn't do it.
Who did it?
I don't know.
An article about his case got the attention of filmmakers Laura Ricciardi and Moira Dimas.
Our through line in the entire series really was a question of how is the American criminal justice system functioning? Is it delivering on its promises of truth and justice? And we thought Stephen Avery would be an amazing window through which to look at the system.
The documentary casts doubt on some of the evidence used to convict Avery in his murder trial, including the confession by Avery's 16-year-old nephew, co-defendant Brendan Dassey.
Who shot her in the head?
He did.
Why didn't you tell us that?
So I couldn't think of it.
Seeking some recompense.
Dean Strang was one of Avery's attorneys at his murder trial. He tried to show that Avery was framed by local law enforcement.
The system that allowed his conviction on this evidence was a system that did not do honor to the basic precept of proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
That ended in the hands.
The prosecutor in the case says the series left out significant evidence against Avery that was included in the trial, saying in part that any claim Avery was framed, quote, is irresponsible and inconsistent with a consideration of all the evidence presented. The filmmakers support any steps to bring justice and closure, particularly for the woman who was murdered.
Our goal going in was always to start a dialogue, and I'm sure, a piece of that dialogue is people's desire to have, more information about what happened to Teresa Halbach. And if somebody finds more information, I think that's a good thing. I think that's what she deserves.
Well, Laura Ricciardi and Moira Dimas produced and wrote and directed Making a Murderer, and they have news to share about the case. Ladies, good morning. Thank you for joining us again. In our last hour, you were speaking about a juror in the case where Stephen Avery was convicted of murder, and that juror now has a big revelation. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. The juror contacted us directly and told us that the verdicts in Stephen's trial were a compromise. That was the actual word the juror used, and went on to describe the jurors ultimately trading votes in the jury room and explicitly discussing, if you vote guilty on this count, I will vote not guilty on this count. So that was a significant revelation.
That's a very serious charge, obviously, more one that could turn this case on its head. Have you been able to independently verify that with, say, another juror?
We have not spoken to other jurors at this point. This juror reached out directly to us. They told us really that they were afraid that if they held out for a mistrial, that it would be easy to identify which juror had done that, and they were fearful for their own safety. And what they explained to us was they believed that if there was a split verdict like this, that would send a message to the appellate courts. And they thought that Stephen would get a new trial. That was sort of their plan. But obviously it didn't work out that way.
Obviously it didn't, Laura. Willie and I were talking over the holidays. Suddenly you go on social media and everybody from celebrities to your neighbors are tweeting and on Facebook talking about this. Did you ever anticipate that this would turn into this phenomenon as it is now?
No. I mean, we never could have anticipated or even dreamed of the type of response there's been to the series. We're really thrilled about it and appreciative of everyone tuning in and, taking to social media to discuss it. I mean, we're really excited about the public discourse it has generated.
And there are petitions now, including one on whitehouse.gov, getting tens of thousands of people signing up. Do you think anything will change in this case based on what you all have produced?
I mean, I think because there is a dialogue now and more people are talking, perhaps somebody who has information might feel safer to come forward at this point. I mean, I think it's going to depend on new evidence being brought to light.
And just lastly, what is it about? I mean, these true crimes, from Serial to Discovery ID to what you've done on Netflix, what do you believe it is that hits a nerve with people here?
I think people are interested in our public institutions, our public systems, and, you know, whether they are functioning properly. And to the extent they're not, you know, what can be done about it.
Well, it's fascinating. We watched it, and it is compelling, and the debate will continue, but we'll see what happens more so in the legal system now we have this big news. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Making a Murderer is streaming now on Netflix. Check it out.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.